So how good can a $70 budget lens be? Well, let's find out. Today we're talking about the Pergear 25mm f1.8. So let's do this. What's up, YouTube? I hope every one of you are doing well. I hope you guys are all safe and healthy. Today we are talking about the Pergear 25mm f1.8. I was sent this lens from Pergear to review. However, they didn't tell me what to say about this lens. They actually asked that I give an honest review on this lens, and so that's what I'm going to do here today. Now, if you haven't heard of Pergear, they are basically a camera gear company that sells different camera gear online, but they also have some in-house products, and this nice little lens is one of them. We're going to talk about what I think about this lens and the quality that this lens provides. So let's get into it. One thing I'm going to do with this review is I'm going to kind of take from last week's review and talk about this lens in certain categories. We're going to talk about focal length and aperture. We're going to talk about image quality, build quality, and my overall thoughts on this lens. So let's get into it. Let's talk about focal length and aperture. This is a 25mm f1.8. 25mm is a great versatile focal length. Now, a micro four thirds, that's a 50mm equivalent. With APS-C, it may be closer to like a 35mm. It's a good natural looking focal length, and partner with the f1.8 aperture, there's really a lot of things you can do with this lens. You can potentially do a talking head shot with this lens, an interview with this lens. You can potentially just do more run and gun B-roll with this lens because it's not too tight. It's also not too wide. And with the f1.8, I can get some inside low light shots. So the focal length is very versatile with that 25mm, and then the f1.8 allows for some low light scenarios. But that brings me over to the image quality. I thought this had a really good image quality to it. Now, is it the sharpest image? No, especially compared to like the Sigma lenses that I've been reviewing. It's not as sharp as Sigma, but honestly, for a $70 lens, I thought it was plenty sharp, good color reproduction for a budget lens like this. If I'm saying that those Sigma lenses are kind of the benchmark for how an APS-C or how good budget lenses should be, then obviously the colors are not as contrasty as the Sigma. The sharpness is not corner to corner sharp like the Sigma. But to me, I actually like that vibe. I like the vibe of some softness on the image. It creates a little bit more of a cinematic vibe to me. You have more isolation to what you're focused on in the center of your frame. So that's just more of a preference for me. But if it's not a preference for you, this may not be a lens that you want to try out. Now, going along with image quality, one thing I do want to mention is the fact you may have some flaring with this lens. I noticed when I was using the sun as a backlight for my subject, I was getting some pretty substantial flaring. Now, I'm personally into that aesthetic, but again, if that's not your vibe, you may not want to consider this lens. You will have some flaring, but I don't think it's something that's going to be super distracting away from your subject. I think it may actually add some character to the shot. Overall, this had a pretty good image quality, especially for a $70 lens. You really can't ask for much at $70, but that being said, compared to some $70 lenses that I've tested, this really does have a great image quality to it. So then the next thing is build quality. This thing is kind of like a miniature tank. It is rock solid. I feel like if I dropped it right now, it would be fine. Now I won't, because I'm just not like that with my lenses. I like to treat them nicely, with respect. But that being said, small tank. Some things to mention with the build quality is the fact that the focusing ring is very smooth, the aperture is declicked and also pretty smooth, and so it's been really pleasant to work with as far as pulling or racking focus with that smooth focusing ring, and being able to change my exposure really easily with that declicked aperture. The focusing ring has these little grooves. You kind of saw that with the 35mm from 7 Artisans that I reviewed a little while ago. And I haven't figured out if I like it or don't like it. Sometimes it can be really helpful and sometimes it can be more of a hindrance. Some things I don't like about the build quality, and maybe more so the design of the lens, is the fact that the focusing ring has markers, but the aperture ring doesn't. I don't know why that would be a design choice, but it is. So that's something that can be kind of confusing. Now, if I'm being nitpicking, I don't really like the fact that the front of the lens is basically all silver. That's not really great for me. I like more of a low profile. I don't like staring at a lens that is just shining right back at me if some light's hitting it or anything like that. That can be kind of a negative, especially if you're trying to really go above and beyond at controlling your light. It may cause some type of reflection. And so I feel like that's something they're trying to do to stand out, but it can be kind of a negative. But overall, I felt like this had a really good build quality. Honestly, probably better build quality than some lenses I've tested recently. Very sturdy, very hefty, but also very small. I love the size of this lens. It creates a small profile on my GH5. I actually just got the Sigma 18-35 and love that lens. I will be doing a review on that eventually, but it's so big. And so going the complete opposite route, if I'm being more discreet or need a lower profile, this is a great option. There are some design things that are a little bit weird, but other than that, really good build. So then that brings me to my general thoughts on this lens and who potentially would I recommend this for and would I recommend it? 100% would recommend this if you're a budget filmmaker, budget videographer. You don't necessarily need that corner to corner sharpness. You maybe have it as a stylized lens where you're trying to create something a little more cinematic. And so it might be a really good lens for that. If you need versatility of a 25mm or the low light of an f1.8 but can't fork out a ton of money, this is a really good lens to consider. Now keep in mind, and this is something I didn't really mention at the beginning or with the build quality, but this is a fully manual lens. And so if you need a 25mm f1.8 and you're okay with using manual lenses like myself, I actually prefer them, then this is actually a really great lens for you. So if you want that 25mm f1.8 and you're okay with manual lenses, then definitely check this one out. Save some money. Check out the Pergear version rather than the 7 Artisans version. Honestly, you can't go wrong with either. But again, if you want to save some money, go with the Pergear. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this sheds some light on this $70 lens from Pergear and if it's worth your time, and I truly think it is. I want to thank the guys over at Pergear for hooking me up with this lens to test out. If you are interested in this lens, I will be leaving an affiliate link to Amazon below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. If you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. And as I've been saying for the last few weeks, remember, if you are a creator and you're stuck inside and you're just going stir crazy, check out the SD single space challenge that I put up a few weeks ago. Check out that video, check out the rules, submit your entry to be featured on my channel. And as always, thank you guys for joining. Go and find your journey, go embrace life, stay safe, be happy, wash those hands, and I'll see you here next time. Peace. So I don't have any entries, so I've got to entertain you guys with bloopers. But again, if you want to save some money, 50mm, and just spit. Some things I don't like about the build quality. Some things I don't like a lot. Some things I don't like about the build. But again, if you want to save some money, which I didn't have a ton of bloopers,